Tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
I really hope there's no precious cargo behind these areas, but certainly we can imagine that there is.
Lost luggage, passengers looking for thousands of bags as YVR suffers from delays by other airports.
He's the king of the soccer.
Bailey with a hard shot into the goal.
A soccer great has passed away, remembering Pele.
Keeps, things out of landfill, keeps stuff going. It's important. It's kind of the future.
Finding a way to recycle and repair old clothing. We've got all the tips.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Anita Bathe. Tonight, the travel chaos at YVR continues. The airport is now being affected by mass cancellations and delays at other airports across Canada and abroad. That's resulting in a massive backlog of unclaimed luggage, now in the thousands. As Michelle Gussoub reports, passengers are being warned it could take days to clear the backlog of suitcases left behind.
Behind the white barricades at YVR's arrivals area, what looks like a luggage graveyard. Thousands of suitcases unclaimed by their owners. And inside, the hunt is on.
We got 3 bags and then the 4th one just missed the plane, I think.
While it's mostly business as usual in the departures area, the airport is now being affected by cancellations and delays in other cities, with luggage arriving long before or after the people who checked it in. YVR estimates there are currently 2,500 pieces of unclaimed luggage at the airport, though that number is fluctuating by the hour.
So what we're seeing is passengers arriving at YVR on flights that don't have that check bag on them.
It's not a total free-for-all, more like organized chaos. These white barricades that were originally brought in to provide privacy during COVID testing are now keeping luggage safe.
We're not inviting passengers to come and just search.
WestJet bags are behind one white wall and Air Canada suitcases behind the other.
There is a system in place where with your boarding pass and with that ticket that you get when you check your bag, that's how we're able to make the connection between where it is and then work with you to then go find that piece of luggage.
Passengers are being asked to make a claim with their airline to start the process of being reunited with their possessions.
I flew to my mom's house and I bring back like a bunch of my old stuff, so it's a bunch of like memory stuff actually.
Ski boots, so we can't go skiing without this bag.
And when someone in the long Air Canada luggage claim line does find their bag in the sea of others,
Oh my God! There's hope. Okay, there's hope.
There is hope. All right, let me take that from you. You should see behind that barricade. It's like a sea of suitcases.
cheers of relief from everyone in the same boat. Michelle Gussoub, CBC News, Vancouver.
And speaking of lost bags, a family in Nanaimo is on the hunt for a special item that hasn't showed up after their flight back to BC on Christmas Eve. Marshall and Lyndon Irwin were handed a hockey stick by Canucks captain Bo Horvat during a game in Edmonton the day before.
When we arrived at the airport and the stick wasn't there, it was pretty gut-wrenching for us. We went to the customer service desk and filled out a Flair lost bag report, but weren't feeling really optimistic in that moment. But thankfully, at least we had made it home for Christmas Eve, so we were trying to count our blessings as we could.
A couple days later, their mom reached out to the Canucks online and got a response from the team saying they were working on getting the boys another hockey stick. This one actually signed by Horvat. Today, a surprise video message as well.
Hey Marshall, hey Lyndon. I heard you guys lost your stick flying the other day. I'm gonna make sure you guys got another one on the way. So as long as you keep cheering for the Canucks, we'll see you guys soon.
A Flair Airlines spokesperson tells CBC the airlines team is working on tracking down the NHL stick, and they're confident it will be found. Meanwhile, State says the Canucks made the boys Christmas. Well, the Vancouver School Board is scrambling to find desks for more than 500 students after flooding at a South Vancouver elementary school over the Christmas break. Water pipes at Sir James Douglas Elementary froze and burst. That caused extensive damage. Now they're looking for a temporary location for the enrolled students. In a statement to CBC, the district says it recognizes this extenuating circumstance is challenging for staff, students, and families, and it's a top priority to get the school community settled as soon as possible. The board says a restoration company has been hired, and it could take at least a couple of months for repairs. And dramatic visuals of a fire in Nanaimo where flames had engulfed a house this morning. What was once a beloved family home turned into an inferno. Crews were called to respond just after 3:15 this morning at Bowen and Latimer Roads. 2 people had to escape and are safe, but they've lost a lot.
It's gone. Yeah. My mom's and dad's ashes were in there, my sister and her boyfriend, and I don't know how many other people were in the house.
Buck says her family had lived in the home for many years, but her father died a year and a half ago. Investigators are still trying to figure out the cause of the fire. Meteorologist Johanna Wagstaffe is here, and Joe, the rain sure is back.
I know, we didn't get much of a break, but this time it's not coming with warnings. And Anita, I'm very pleased to show you this blank weather map. We don't have any weather watches or warnings across the province. Take a look at our time lapse today. We saw things start off as showers, those fast moving clouds across the inlet. It took until about sort of 9-10 a.m. for the showers to move in. There they go. And then steadily ramping up through the day. And we're actually getting into some heavier rain tonight and for tomorrow, which is actually a second system in there. There were 2 systems, one for today and one for tomorrow before we get our real break. Now, we do have a special avalanche warning for the BC interior. There's a weak layer under all of that snow that we had last week. So backcountry skiers and snowboarders are being advised to check the forecast before you head out. Here's the radar right now. Notice that little blob of yellow. That's the heavy rain and the radar that moved across Metro Vancouver in the past hour. We're looking to see more bands come in from the southwest. And as that system approaches over the next couple of hours, look for gusty winds tomorrow morning as well. So pretty steady rain, looking at another 15 to 30 millimeters tomorrow. This is not a true atmospheric river. And again, we don't have the warnings, but it is a wet Friday. Anita, we do have that sun coming just in time for the weekend and just in time for 2023. And I'm ready to turn the calendar.
Yeah, let's start the new year off with a bang.
Let's do it.
Thanks, Joe.
You're welcome.
Well, a man and 2 dogs were rescued by the U.S. Coast Guard off the coast of Vancouver Island this week. This after the boat they were on crashed onto rocks during heavy waves. The first mission happened around 1 a.m. yesterday. Later that day, the second dog was spotted and lifted off the grounded boat to be reunited with its owner. This was all with the help of Victoria's Joint Rescue Coordination Center. After complaints from residents, there are now plans to capture the cougar that has been plowing around Protection Island near Nanaimo. This BC Conservation Office plans to use this trap to capture and then release the wild animal. The removal is a priority as the cougar has been very close to homes in densely populated areas. The service says that the cougar may be unable to return to where it came from due to the king tides. Well, it's that time of year when a lot of new stuff can show up in our homes, but that doesn't have to mean out with the old, especially when it comes to worn-out clothing. Our Johanna Bathe is looking at ways to hold off on tossing those tattered threads by repairing them instead.
Leather jackets, sandals, even Valentinos. If it's broken, this studio in East Vancouver wants to fix it.
We've seen thousands of items every month, and we're keeping all those items out of a landfill.
Metro Vancouver residents throw out an average 8 kilos of clothes every year. That's the weight of about 44 t-shirts. And Return at Depot stopped accepting textiles earlier this year.
I think that you can buy new shoes every 6 months to a year, but when you choose to repair it, you're making a choice that these are my boots and I want to keep wearing them.
Over in Richmond, Renew specializes in repairing outdoor gear.
I was also part of a waste management project in my previous company. We talked to a lot of local waste management team. for waterproof fabric, they all saying waterproof fabric is like plastic, so there's no better way to recycle them instead of only going to incineration.
He repairs the kind of clothes you see a lot on the West Coast: down jackets, waterproof pants, and also ski gear.
I think the best way, if the material cannot be fully recycled, the best way is to make the user life longer. That's the reason why I started this company.
Buying new clothes comes with more than one kind of cost. Up to 8% of the world's greenhouse gas emissions are from the textile industry, according to the UN.
There's just no way we can keep going the way we are in terms of the amount of waste that we're creating as a society.
This Vancouver consultant wants to make it easier for retailers to offer repairs to their customers by selling them something he calls a renewal service.
Talking about repair, maintenance, alterations, and then refurbishment for resale. It allows the retailer to offer these services, but without taking on the load of the complex operations. Making it easy and streamlined and convenient is so crucial.
But even as these businesses want to help mend your clothes, it's a skill they also encourage learning.
We're really excited to see people that do repair their own things.
The repair isn't just something that other people do, it's something that you can do yourself if you're looking for a new career or even just a fun new hobby at home.
Keeps, things out of landfill, it keeps stuff going. It's important, it's kind of the future.
A future where the clothes we wear have a little more history. Johanna Wagstaffe, CBC News, Vancouver.
Canada's Governor-General Mary Simon has announced 99 new appointments and promotions to the Order of Canada. Retired BC soccer player and Olympic bronze medalist Karina LeBlanc is among the crew.
But this wouldn't be possible without this country, and just being recognized amongst such incredible human beings and knowing how special Canadians are. I'm still processing it, but I'm so honored.
CBC journalist and former curling world champion Colleen Jones is also an appointee. Hockey player Sidney Crosby, former CBC journalist Brian Stewart, and astronaut David St. Jacques are being inducted as officers of the Order of Canada, which is the second highest rank. Okay, to a story now making headlines around the world. A man referred to as the king of soccer has died. Brazilian soccer legend Pelé has lost his battle with cancer, but as Aaron Collins shows us, Pelé's legacy stretches far beyond the field.
A soccer legend so big, he only needed one name, Pelé. Born Edson Arantes do Nascimento in 1940, nicknamed Pelé as a child, he was made to play football. The Brazilian star began his professional career as a teenager, going on to score nearly a goal a game, astonishing, especially for a career spanning 3 decades. But it was on the international stage where Pelé truly made his mark, winning the World Cup with Brazil a record 3 times. A global icon, lured to the U.S. to play out his career and boost the sport there. An ambassador for a sport he dominated after he retired, working to grow the game.
It's important you know how you kick the ball, how you pass the ball.
Even offering tips to make soccer more popular in Canada nearly 25 years ago.
This takes a little time to when you start to get big star, big name in the game, then the people come to support, no doubt.
Those stars have finally arrived. The brightest, sometimes compared to the Brazilian star, led Canada back to the World Cup. And as Pelé predicted, Canadian fans followed.
I'm here to enjoy the fact that Canada's in the World Cup finally. Because that's what it's all about, right?
First World Cup goal, I think the place is going to erupt.
Pelé's play inspiring football fans and players around the world and across generations.
He set a great precedent for what world-class truly looks like. And I think everybody else has tried to live up to that since then.
He was a personality with global reach, one that transcended his sport.
President, this is the short Brazilian team who has 4 World Cup, the only one in the world.
Well, this is a priceless gift.
As Pelé's health deteriorated, supporters prayed for the superstar, drawn to the hospital where he spent his final days. In life, Pelé changed the game he nearly perfected, but as the first soccer superstar of the television era, his true legacy may be showcasing the beautiful game all around the world. Aaron Collins, CBC News, Calgary.
And we spoke with people at the Portuguese Club of Vancouver today about the Brazilian soccer star.
That for everybody that follows the soccer these days, because he's the king of the soccer. And every time that you go to Brazil, there's nobody on the streets that will know Pelé. And entire world, everybody knows Pelé.
As I believe you brought the game to another level, make it accessible for a lot of people in Brazil. And I will be remembered by that, not just in the field, but also off the field.
I was 9 years old. I was living in Lima at the time, and that was the first time that we actually had color TV, and it was the 1970 World Cup, and that was my first impression of Pelé in the World Cup in Mexico, and it was just great. It was an impression that lasted forever, and as many people mentioned here, it's just a beautiful game, and he will be missed.
He will be missed by a lot of people. And joining me live now is former Canada men's 1986 World Cup player Bob Lenarduzzi. Bob, for someone watching tonight who doesn't quite know soccer or doesn't understand why Pelé is such a big deal, can you explain and why it matters to people here in BC?
Well, he came onto the scene in 1958 as a 17-year-old and helped Brazil win a World Cup. They did it again in 1962, and then they did it again in 1970, which is unprecedented to be a part of 3 World Cup teams. He chose to finish his career in the United States to play with the New York Cosmos. And as a result of that, I had the good fortune to play against him on 4 occasions. And his contribution to soccer and the growth of soccer was bringing his profile to North America. Everyone knew who Pelé was. They may not understand the sport of soccer, but they all knew who Pelé was and what he had achieved. And wherever he played, there were sold-out crowds. So in spite of the fact that the NASL, that was the league that the Cosmos and the Whitecaps were a part of at that time, ceased to exist in 1984, he definitely laid the groundwork for where the sport is at the moment.
And what are some of your greatest memories of Pelé being here in Vancouver?
Just the opportunity to be on the same field as him. I as a young person, a young player, idolized him for all the reasons that would be obvious, and that he was such a great player. And when I look back now on some of the goals that he scored and the goals that he set up, and then off the pitch, the amount of goodwill that he brought to our sport globally. And I would suggest that he and probably Muhammad Ali are probably 2 of the most recognizable global athletes in the world, and that's saying something.
Yeah, that's saying a lot for sure. Bob Lenarduzzi, thank you so much for your time tonight.
My pleasure. Thank you.
After the break, with the U.S. restrictions on Chinese travelers, will Canada do the same anytime soon? The debate coming up. Thanks for watching our commercial-free live stream tonight. In August last year, the Taliban took control of Afghanistan after the U.S. and its allies withdrew. Afghan embassies around the world had their funding cut off. In Ottawa, the embassy staff members who are left say they now work double duty to provide consulate services to immigrants and refugees in Canada and the U.S.
My name is Muhammad Naeem Ayub Sada, and I'm a newcomer from Afghanistan, and I arrived this year, February 9, 2022. I used to work as a director of an organization in Afghanistan, led by me there, and I had more than 10,000 staff working in all 34 provinces of Afghanistan. And our mandate was to work for a strengthening of democratic processes in Afghanistan. I had a commitment to my people, I had a commitment to my family, and I had the commitment to my organizations. But this time, all those intimidations, attacks, Taliban took the power. So we were forced to make such a decision and leave the country and came here as an immigrant. We didn't carry out anything. We left our money, our documents, everything we had, we left it in Afghanistan. We didn't have all the complete documents with us when we left the country. So here, in order to integrate or resettle, so you have to go through a process to validate number of documents. One of the issue was about my driver license. I had no idea how to process that, so when I visited the embassy, so they provided us guidance on how this works. So now I have the full G license from Canada, which I can drive, the highway here. Even I can work with organizations, and if I am willing to do Uber, I can do that as well. But I know it's not easy for the embassy to function like this. Still, they are committed to work, and I would like to thank them from the bottom of my heart, because we do really need their services.
Beijing is lashing out tonight at countries that now require COVID tests for travelers from China. Canada is not yet among them, but as China reels under a massive wave of infections and deaths, Julia Wang shows us the renewed debate over travel restrictions and whether they work.
In Italy, travelers arriving from China now must be screened for COVID-19. India, Japan, and the United States have introduced similar restrictions. China believes these rules target its citizens unfairly. COVID response measures need to be science-based and proportionate that treat people of all countries equally, says this spokesperson. Hospitals in China are swamped. Restrictions in place for years were suddenly lifted a couple weeks ago. The population has little natural immunity, and vaccines used in China are widely seen as less effective, stoking concern among experts.
What we might see is the fear of a repeat of what happened in 2020, 2021, with a new, more virulent and more transmissible and more fatal variant spreading.
Most travel rules have been eased worldwide. Bringing them back misses the mark, says this infectious disease physician.
Society is pretty open these days, and so the average person's risk isn't necessarily going to be from that person that comes off a plane. It's going to be in that gathering, that restaurant.
And travel restrictions really wouldn't be able to keep variants out, says Chegla. In fact, Canada's public health agency says the variant driving infections in China has already been here for months.
You really can't play a whack-a-mole game trying to identify particular countries when in reality, if it is more virulent, if it is more transmissible, it will be here one way or another.
What new measures could do is buy a bit of time for a healthcare system already under severe strain from COVID, RSV, and the flu.
It may delay the onset of cases. We'd be more able to deal with a number of cases.
As of now, Canada isn't screening travelers from China, but the Public Health Agency tells CBC News it won't hesitate to put in measures if required. Julia Wang, CBC News, Edmonton.